evening and welcome to the Wednesday, March 19th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. First item on the agenda are minutes. I thought we did the 19th last week. Did we do the 19th?
Wasn't that the one you were missing page?
No.
Oh, we were missing page 3 or 4.
She reprinted them from page 3. And gave me
I didn't get them.
the next stage from running the packet. So we'll just figure that on and have her read and
The 12th. I thought it was the 12th. The 19th was February, right?
Yeah, but we were missing page 3
On one of them. I thought it was.
on the February one, February 19th.
I'll just leave her not having her redistribute to you.
Okay.
Okay.
February 26th, I know we don't have. March 5th, we have. Are there any comments?
Is that Raul's name?
5, 6, 7.
I don't even know sure how to pronounce it, but that is Mr. Rivera?
Lizardo Rivera?
Oh, okay. I move that we move minutes of March 5th. Second.
Any other comments? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is to approve minutes of March 5th, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. March 12th.
I did not read those.
I read those, and although I'm not sure we can vote these because there isn't a quorum of people who were at that meeting here now.
We'll do it next week.
Okay. Request for continuance under hearings under a notice of intent. William and Karen Monroe, 26 and lot 179 Ferry Road, East Falmouth, for permission to install vinyl sheet piling behind the existing revetment of 26 Ferry Road, extending southwest to the existing bulkhead on lot 179, and add boulders at the top of the coastal bank on Ferry Road.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicants are requesting a continuance until May 7th.
So moved. Second.
Any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, continuance is requested to, what is it?
May 7th.
May 7th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Other business. That's why you're here. Presentation by the 300 Committee about the Brivogel Conservation Area. Jess, are you up? Good evening.
Okay, good evening. I'm Jessica Rittenauer, Administrator at the 300 Committee, and Alex Etkind is with us as well tonight. He's the Stewardship Coordinator for the 300 Committee. We're here tonight just with a brief presentation on the Brivogel Conservation Area, which is owned by the town, held under the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction. And we have a report and a recommendation for an area for parking, and then also a request for some assistance with the next steps related to communication with NSTAR about ATV access. And Alex will mention that briefly. This plan I have for you just so you get a sense of where the parcel is. It's off of Blacksmith Shop Road. Like I said, it's 67 acres. It's next to the town's leaf compost facility. And at this point in time, the entrance to the parcel, you have to use the road to the leaf compost facility, which has a gate. And when that's gated off, then access is essentially shut off of this. One of our goals overall is to increase access to this parcel. And I'll show you the plan that the engineering division has put together. The parking area would be at this corner here, so well away from ponds, wetland areas, in this corner of Blacksmith Shop Road. This plan was prepared by Scott Schluter from the town's engineering division with assistance from Bob Williams and Peter McConerty. And they visited the site with some 300 committee representatives and Mark Kaspersik quite a while ago to look at where would the best site be for the parking without moving the gate. The DPW reiterated the importance of that gate back to the leaf compost facility, so the gate will remain in the place where it is, and the entrance to the parking is on this side of the gate. There would be 5 parking spaces. It's a gravel lot with 1 handicap accessible space that would be made out of a dense grade material. And the engineering division is also proposing a dense grade path, which would be sort of meandering through the woods to the parcel, and that would also be made from the dense grade. This, as I mentioned earlier, is a preliminary step, one to encourage and facilitate access, and hopefully to lead into the next aspects of our total management and restoration plan for the site. This is a baby step, but we think it's an important first step before we start investing more funding into the restoration of the parcel. We think now is the time to do this so that this is in place before we invest in the wetland restoration and other aspects. Also, there is conservation signage that's proposed, and that's shown on the plan as well. I do want to point out that it will require some tree removal, and Scott has indicated on the plan there'd be 18 oak trees and 3 pines that would have to be removed to create the parking area and to create the site distance that's required on Blacksmith Shop Road, so they'd be cutting some trees back in that area. Are there questions on this? In terms of implementation, we hope to coordinate with the DPW, and we would ask that the Conservation Commission endorse that request and work with us on a work order. John Lyons has been informed previously that this plan was underway, so once we get a concept approved, the next step would be to work with them on scheduling and timing and figuring out when it would work for them to actually implement this plan.
Yes.
Would they be in charge of the path and everything, all the handwork, machine work would totally be done by, and who would be the immediate contact with the town? Would it be John Lyons?
Scott Schluter,
Scott?
as the town, and from the engineering division, would provide the communication along with us to the DPW for the work.
You mean while the work's actually being
Right,
done?
and I'd like to just have a physical, who the foreman on site when this is done.
We
Just
can
to-
absolutely get that
Just
information.
so that we have a contact person.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Do you want us to take action, or do you want to, shall we hear for what Alex has to say first?
Well, I think this, we would like to get a vote so that we can proceed with coordinating with the DPW. And then the next aspect of the presentation is more about communication with NSTAR and how we might be able to partner with that. I don't know if that would require a vote, but this would be great to get a vote for.
We'll give you a vote, but let's hear the whole presentation
Oh,
first.
sure.
Yep.
Alex?
And I suspect it will be a favorable vote. I don't want you to sit there and worry. Hi, Alex.
Thanks. Yes, I'm Alex, Stewardship Coordinator with the 300 Committee Land Trust. And I think Jessica did a great job of explaining our intent with this parking area. It's to increase access, and it's to increase the right type of access. You know, currently, the property is only, you can only park at that gate during the operating hours of the brush dump. So what that means is that whenever the brush dump's not in operation, anyone with an ATV or a dirt bike knows that no one's back there. And it's just kind of like an open invitation to go back there and mess around. It's
So
been,
you're going to keep a car permanently parked in the outer parking?
well, we hope to
So it looks
encourage
like
more
there's somebody
use.
there?
Yeah. And it's been a struggle keeping the border of this property secure. There is a large NSTAR easement that runs through. DPW has helped by giving us a few boulders, but they are just moved aside by NSTAR. Gates are left open, locks are cut. It's kind of an definitely ongoing struggle there. And it's a very special property with lots of potential, a very diverse range of habitat, owing to its varied land use in the past. And we'd like to continue to work on some of the habitat restoration there, but we really have to, be able to secure the boundaries of this property. Any way that we could strategize together on working towards that goal would be great.
Did you want to talk about NSTAR, or that was your presentation, that you'd like us to work with NSTAR? You and NSTAR?
It's really just been hard to even get a hold of anyone who really knows what's going on there, because they use subcontractors to do a lot of the work.
Jen has a contact. I
I have a contact
think we
with
could
NSTAR.
set up a meeting with NSTAR.
That'd be great.
NSTAR usually likes to be looked favorably upon by the Conservation Commission.
Thank you.
So,
That-
yeah, Jen, you can set up a meeting, right? Yeah. Yep.
Tommy has a question.
That particular activity is going to be tough to regulate, and in all seriousness, that's got a long history of people going out there on bikes and such.
Sure.
And it's going to be a challenge to figure that out on how to permanently, I'm
Skeptical?
cautiously
Yeah.
optimistic that there's a permanent solution to that. I think there's going to have to be some education folded into this so that people realize why we want to keep out of certain areas. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the strong suits that we're going to have, is just to make people realize. But at best, it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I think part of your presentation is to introduce this to the public of the town as a whole. This is an area that I suspect most people haven't been to. I've been to because I've worked on some, these initial Phragmites removal projects there, and it is really a special site. So when we do have parking available, I would recommend people go, and I'm sure that there'll be opportunities for a wetlands restoration project. But your suggestion is really good, and
I think it
maybe,
is. And having this parking area will enable us to continue with some of those outreach.
This is the beginning step, like I said. It's the baby step to many more. It's a long term.
Tommy,
My question, Tom actually got to it, but it was securing it from what? And I think the answer is from ATVs and dirt bikes being in there directly,
As well as, full-size trucks.
like off-roading recreationally.
Yep.
And I think that, the more boulders, the harder it will be to get trucks and ATVs in there, but you're never really gonna keep out two-wheelers, I don't think, if they wanna get in there. And I have a question, when you say people are cutting locks, is that NSTAR cutting their own locks, or their subcontractors cutting, or
I think there could be a range of
people who wanna
activities.
get in there with their truck?
Yeah, I think it could be a little bit going on. But again, I think by encouraging, the use of the property for things such as hiking and, checking out these interesting plant communities, it's not gonna be this abandoned place that people know they can go and be alone and do their own thing,
I think it's a great idea, I'm in favor of it, it's a nice piece of land. I think it is, it's been an issue in Falmouth for a long time, because there's really nowhere to ride those vehicles, yet there's a lot of people who ride them, so. But that's beside the point, I like it, thank you.
so could we have a motion that would,
A motion to endorse the 300 committee and pursuing the parking lot and path.
Second.
any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is the green light to go ahead, improve access? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before you go, I just want to reiterate to everybody in Falmouth how much the 300 committee has helped the Conservation Commission with management of conservation lands. There are a lot of conservation lands, a lot of us enjoy them. There, you know, we all have our favorite little pocket neighborhood conservation land, and then you investigate a little further out. But we really couldn't do it with all the help provided, and especially by Jess and Alex,
Well, thank you.
and the trail crew.
Yes.
And the trails. We have great volunteers. Thank you.
Repeat that again, and you're always looking for volunteers?
Yes, for
Okay.
stewardship
So that-
volunteers,
That's what I
absolutely.
thought.
Now, I'm very sad to tell you that the trail crew is retired for the year. They'll start again in January. But those of you who enjoy getting out with rakes and loppers, trails always need to be maintained.
Exactly right.
And there's lots of other work days coming up, I'm sure, right?
Check our website. We have lots of good information, walks and talks and work days. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Okay, request for determination of applicability. Is anybody here for an RDA? Okay, for those of you here for an RDA, if you hear a negative determination, that means you can go ahead with the work that you've proposed, just so you don't worry. If you hear a positive determination, you may be able to go ahead, but you have to do the next step, which is to come back for an order of conditions. Steve and Mary Murphy, Great Harbor, Woods Hole, for permission to establish a suspended aquaculture site for the propagation of eastern oysters, Crassostrea virginica, within the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries Approved Area, SC2, Great Harbor, Woods Hole.
Yes, Madam Chairman, exactly this project, and we were recommending a negative 2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Court, you have a question?
Yeah, in the past, this has always triggered a notice of intent, so,
I was anticipating this question.
well, that's why I asked it.
This is a little different than you've seen it. These cages are not going to be anchored to the bottom. They are actually being suspended underneath a float. The float already exists, so none of the components are going to impact or alter land on the ocean. So staff felt that the appropriate filing in this particular case would be an RDA.
Sounds good to
They're
me.
not putting in cages on the ground and no anchoring systems, anything. They're all being suspended under the float that exists.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is negative, to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Eric Maxon and Larry Costello, Great Harbor, Woods Hole, for permission to establish a suspended aquaculture site for the propagation of eastern oysters, Crassostrea virginica, within the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries Approved Area, SC2.
Yes, Madam Chairman, again, we were recommending a negative 2 under the state and the bylaw for the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
I have a question now. What's the DMF approved area SC2? What does that mean?
They don't reference it in there,
You're not for this one? You're for this one?
Yep.
Ah, see, I could spot you as a troublemaker between those other two.
What is that
Come on up.
Just please identify yourself.
SC2, Great Harbor, Woods Hole.
Yep, Eric Mattson. It's just, on the DMF website, they've gone through and pre-approved.
Designated
and
certain areas.
Designated certain
Pre-approval.
areas, and you'll put that on in your harvest report and things like that. That's how they categorize certain areas of the water.
Okay, and you still have to interact with DMF for this?
The
You need
DMF
a-
has done their survey. DMF is done with us as far as they're concerned.
Okay, you don't have to report your results to them?
I'm sure I will. I don't know if it's a requirement, but I will report to them.
We have a copy of the amendment for that in the application.
No, but I'm just wondering who oversees a project like this once it's started?
DMF will have oversight. We'll do our yearly reporting to them and get a license from them.
Of course.
And the town,
I think the commission
No.
ought to insist on samples when they're done, just to make sure they're good.
Well, perhaps Eric would like to provide that at some
yeah.
point.
And of course, the town DNR has oversight on what we're doing too.
Right. Okay, thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the table for approval of this RDA. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Pier 37 Inc., 64 Scranton Ave, Falmouth, for permission to remove existing deteriorating concrete slab and replace with steel reinforced concrete launching pad in same footprint.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we are recommending a -2 in the state of bylaw for the their non-compliant.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Aha, that's why you're here. Continued request for determination of applicability. Town of Falmouth Water Department, care of Mary Beth Weiser off Gifford Street, for permission to drill 1 4-inch diameter soil boring to a depth of approximately 40 feet using a track-mounted all-terrain drill rig. No vegetation clearing to be done, all work within existing cart path or open area. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman.
You're welcome.
Patrick's? Who are you looking for?
Patrick O'Neill.
Patrick's? Patrick's
Can I
there.
ask you a question? Did you get Mark's email and shifting that away from the hydric soils? And that's okay with what you guys need to do?
Yes, Patrick O'Neill with Tate and Howard. Yes, I spoke with Mark this afternoon, and we established what he would like to see as boundaries
Yep.
as far as up from the pond shore and south of the existing wetland/vernal pool to the north.
Okay.
And we're
And
good
that's
with that.
gonna work for you guys?
Sure.
Okay. -2 under the bylaw outside the state jurisdiction with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Is that why you're here too? Boy, this brings a big audience in here. Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. We're looking forward to the project moving forward. Yep. Request for hearings under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are heard simultaneously under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. First one tonight, Logan and Lisa Huffman, 5 and 11 Onawa. Did you say, somebody told me that's Onawa? Onawa Lane, Falmouth, for permission to raise, RAZE, the existing single-family house and 4-car garage, remove paved driveway and construct a 6-bedroom, single-family house with attached garage, patios, entry porch, stairways, to install walkways, driveway, parking area, ACU unit walls, a Title V sewage disposal system, utilities, mitigation plannings to control invasives, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Mike, you don't have the EP numbers for this, do you?
Anything else? Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. The applicant is Logan and Lisa Huffman. I'm joined tonight by Logan Huffman, applicant and property owner. I'm also joined by Teresa Sprague from Blue Flax Design, Amy from Blue Flax Design, and Dave Johnson's the architect for the proposed house at 11 Ottawa Lane. The Huffmans recently acquired the property on Ottawa Lane, and it actually is 3 separate lots. So I prepared a overall plan just to give you a reference of what the basic land looks like and what the major elements are that are either proposed tonight or will be proposed in the future. I gave Jen 2 of these for your file. So there's 3 lots associated with this property, 3 separate addresses. Number 3, Ottawa, is basically this small ranch house on a lot known as Lot 218. Then there's number 5, Ottawa, which is this long ranch-style house and this garage and the associated driveway, turnaround driveway that goes with that, as well as, in addition, this 4-car garage that has an apartment upstairs. And then finally, there's number 11 Ottawa Lane, which includes the house that is basically the reason for our application tonight, the pool, some other appurtenances, driveway, and the balance of the land that goes with that property. So this overall plan shows you all of the property under ownership, and then I'd like to just touch on briefly on some of the things that are proposed. We're here tonight to ask for permission to demolish and reconstruct this house.
Could you maybe stand on the other, we can't, thank you, is that okay for everybody?
Well, we have to be able to see
Oh, I
also.
thought, no, it's not, well, but you could see out.
Can you see, Tom?
I can see.
All right.
Good thing I'm a lefty.
Oh, I
So this house is proposed to be demolished. The pool is to remain. This structure is proposed to be demolished and forever be gone. This house is proposed to be demolished and forever to be gone. In fact, there'll be a further application because the real estate where this house will become the new home for a new septic system that serves this house that you have previously reviewed and approved that was in a closer proximity to the pond. But that'll be under a separate application. And then if you've been to the site, you've noticed the severe ponding in the driveway, known as Ottawa Pond. And that is slated for a future repair. So that's basically the main elements of the project. And the focal point, of course, is going to be number 11. Now, number 11, Ottawa, there's an existing single-family dwelling, so you have a plan in your package that shows the existing conditions. The owner did an analysis of that actual structure, and it simply does not, it's not feasible to renovate it. It doesn't really make sense to try to save that house. So unfortunately, the plan is to demolish the house and hopefully get approval to build the new house that's proposed. This project is almost exclusively being done in the buffer to the various resource areas outlined in your regulations. The only work that's done on a resource is the woodland management and the invasives management that Teresa will discuss. So this is a classic redevelopment project, and the guideline for that is found in your regulations at FWR 10.18. The resource areas in question on this and outlined on the plan include land under a salt pond. There's a couple of strips of bordering vegetated wetland. There's the obvious coastal bank, and there's land under a salt pond. And there's a boundary of land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is on the bank, so no works proposed other than the invasives management and the woodland management in
land subject to coastal storm flowage or the coastal bank. So the work associated with the proposed house has to meet your performance standards at FWR 10.18, and there's two very basic rules. And one is any new structures can't move closer to any resources than the present primary structure. And this project has been designed to very specifically not to do that. There are some areas that are slightly bigger than the other house, but none of them move closer to the resources than the closest points of the existing house. And then, of course, there's the requirement to do an analysis of the impervious surfaces, both pre-construction and post-construction, which we've done and we've outlined on the plan, and to mitigate for any increases. So the tabulation of those areas is on the plan, and there is a requirement for mitigation planting, and the plans proposed by Blue Flax Design go through the details and the specifics of where that mitigation planting will be and the type of mitigation planting proposed. The new house will be a 6-bedroom house. I think the existing house has 6 bedrooms as well. And the existing septic system is in a state of failure, and it's right next to the existing house, certainly within 100 feet of the top of the coastal bank, and I believe it's within 100 feet of the boundary of the salt pond. And it doesn't meet any of the standards of Title V, and it's failing. So the new septic system is proposed to be in this location, where these blue colors are, which places it well beyond 100 feet from all the wetland resources, and in a place where, it's in the place where the old garage, or the existing garage that's proposed to be demolished, currently exists. The topography, if you've been to the site, is rather challenging to get access with the driveway to the new house. But we proposed a regrading area and a driveway court in the front of the house. And the driveway court, because it's in a fill, is proposed to be terraced on this side and terraced and retained on this side, so that the topography blends in with the existing higher topography here, and that the topography on this side is controlled by the retaining walls instead of sloping it completely off. And we did that for a very specific reason. And I'm sure several of you have been to the site. There's, I think, 3, maybe 4 very amazing, huge I think they're silver beech trees. And there's one 30-inch one over here, 30-inch diameter. And if we were to propose to fill this off, it could possibly threaten that. So we consulted with Blue Flax, and we designed a terracing wall here that will make it so that the root system for that beech tree is not impacted. There's also a very dramatic, large 48-inch beech tree in this location that is outside or not near any of the work that we're proposing. There's no regrading or changes in topography proposed there by design to preserve that tree. And then there's another large beech tree off the page. There's a series of existing stone walls and terracing on the north side. If you've been here, it's sort of like an amphitheater. Terraced walls, granite steps down to this patio area that gains access to the pond. There's a flat lawn area down here. And we were very, very specific in our design to maintain the integrity of that wall and to keep the construction in a place so that it doesn't impact that wall. There was one concern. We met with Jen. We've met with Jen on 2 occasions. Just at the time that we filed, we met her in her office, and we talked about that. And then we met on site after the site was staked to go over that today, as a matter of fact. And in our opinion, the design team, the wall is not there's no threat to the wall based on the construction. In fact, if you've seen the wall, it's massive and it's made out of nice, beautiful chunks of granite, and the owner, he's very motivated to protect the wall. There'll be no issues with the wall, in our opinion. So the house site in the surrounding grading and design has been done in a way that we're trying our best to maintain and minimize any disruption and keep it localized to where there's already alterations by man, by the house that exists in the surrounding landscape areas. So I'm here to answer any questions. Teresa's going to make a presentation, and then the whole team's here if there's any questions.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Good evening, Teresa.
I'll probably switch back and forth to show some of those photos, but overall, the mitigation plan and invasive species management plan, it's actually really interesting. I've been familiar with this property for quite a while. A couple of years ago, I was actually called out to work with a group of graduate students who were hired by the former property owners, the international school, to actually put together a master plan. And I was affiliated with the graduate school program. They had asked me to come out and work with those students to put together a master plan for the site. So I've seen this property over the course of a couple of years before it went to auction. I was also contacted by somebody else who was interested in bidding on this site to talk about what was happening on this site along with invasive species. And now, gratefully, I'm lucky enough to work with the current property owners on this property. So Mike has walked you through pretty much the existing conditions, but what I thought I'd do is sort of walk you through the existing conditions as far as vegetation goes and what's happening on the banks and directly within the buffer zone. So if we start off with the southern portion of the property, we have the existing patio area with the brick, stone, and fireplace, steps down to the pond. That area, as far as vegetation goes, there are terrace beds that are not currently vegetated. The vegetation in this area and at the edge of the waterway consists of autumn olive, bittersweet, vine honeysuckle, and some shrub honeysuckle. In addition to that, we've got a couple of trees, pitch pine trees, that are located here and here, shown here in these photographs, and this photograph here, that are completely damaged, covered with English ivy, and that are actually losing limbs onto that patio area that we are proposing to remove. As we walk further to the west and then up to the north, this area here that's shown in green is densely invaded with bittersweet vine, autumn olive, vine honeysuckle, shrub honeysuckle, porcelain berry, border privet throughout this area. We've estimated this area to, the vegetation in this area is about 75% invasive species, about 25% native species. In addition to those invasive species, however, there are some healthy oak trees, there are some pitch pines, there are also arrowwood viburnum and summersweet. As you sort of get down to the bottom of the bank and closer to the edge of the water, it's slightly less invaded. As you get nearer to the top of the bank, of course, where disturbance has occurred over time, it's more heavily invaded. As we continue to move north, up into the pool area, there's a hedge of border privet, which is what's feeding all of those baby border privets down on the bank, sort of the mother plants up here that sort of create the edge at the top of the bank between the pool and the coastal bank. So continuing to move north, we start to blend into an area that's slightly less invaded. That's this area in here that's shaded in yellow, is about 30% invasive species. One of the other problems that we have on the site are there are two older oak trees that are severely infected with snip and wasp. I was out there with Mark DiBiase from Bartlett Tree just to double check what I had seen and make sure that.
Excuse me, Teresa, could you hold the microphone when you talk? Thanks.
Thank you. So I checked with Mark DiBiase of Bartlett Tree just to confirm what I was finding in these trees, and they are definitely severely infected with cynipid wasp. You can see in this picture here that the trees are hanging over the house. They're too far gone to be protected, to be treated at this point, and so we are recommending that those oak trees are removed. There are some other oak trees on the bank that are showing some signs of cynipid wasp infection, but they can be saved, so we're proposing that those trees remain intact. And we're showing the trees that we're proposing to remove with an X on the plan, so you can see their exact locations. As we continue to move north, into this, I'm not very good at doing this with one hand, up towards the peninsula area. Again, the invasive species, we've continued to have bittersweet, we continue to have porcelainberry, but as we start to move into this area here, we find that there's more Japanese barberry and burning bush throughout this area here. And then as we get around the corner, as we get head south again along Oyster Pond, there's actually invasive species, a little bit more in the way of native species. There are also some beautiful snags hanging out over the water that provide high wildlife value that we propose to remain. Moving in towards the patio, however, where again disturbances probably occurred over time, there's a stand of Japanese knotweed in here that should be managed immediately in order to prevent it from spreading. And then as we head around to the property here, and then into the Longhouse property, which is not part of this application, we've got just continued invasive species management area directly around the BVW. So, in addition to the invasive species, you can probably, and if you've been to the site, you can see that over here on this corner of the bank, there's an existing shed that houses the pool equipment. There's also, at some point, somebody had tried to construct some solar panels on the coastal bank, which have just been abandoned. And there's also a sort of precarious deck hanging over there. All of that will be removed, and this area will be entirely restored with native plant species. Other native plant species on the site, also as we head more to the north in that yellow area, include birch trees, along with oaks and pitch pines, which will all remain. I mentioned the snags over the pond. The oak trees on the peninsula, there's 3 large oak trees at the end of that peninsula. They all appear to be in good health, so there's no recommendation to do anything but perhaps some corrective pruning at this time. Basically, the goals of the project are to manage invasive species on the coastal banks and within the buffer area throughout the property, to restore native plant species, to protect and improve stability, function, and wildlife habitat of the bank and buffer zones. The other thing we're proposing to do is create a vista corridor from the residence to the Oyster Pond area. It's approximately 25 feet wide. We have details on here as far as how that vista corridor will be managed. Some thinning of saplings, of course, removal of invasive species, and then some careful selective pruning of trees just to maintain a view out to Oyster Pond and Vineyard Sound beyond. We'll be replacing trees, all trees, and I'll go through that in just a minute, lost either due to construction or to trees that are currently diseased and damaged. And I think another important part of this plan is that we're also addressing existing topography and impervious surface issues in order to reduce stormwater runoff, which is in flooding, which is clearly a huge problem on this site and on the other site. So in the land management plan on page 4, we discuss exactly how we're going to achieve these goals. So basically, the goals of the plan will be accomplished through the selective removal and management of invasive species, including all of those mentioned: shrub honeysuckle, Japanese knotweed, vine honeysuckle, multiflora rose, Japanese barberry, burning bush, English ivy, porcelainberry, border privet, and bittersweet, and replanting a dense vertical layers of native vegetation throughout the coastal bank area, including trees, shrubs, ground covers, thereby improving the ecological integrity and wildlife habitat value of the banks of the salt pond and coastal bank and buffer resource areas, The proposed project will not destroy or permanently alter any portion of the bank or of the salt pond or coastal bank and will not have any adverse effect on the bank's stability or ability to protect upland areas from storm damage and flooding. The bank does not act as a sediment source, but no coastal engineering structures are proposed. Corrective pruning will not only help to open up views to Oyster Pond, but they'll also protect the existing structures from potential damage and improve the overall health of the trees. So in light of those goals, the overall improvements to the property, there's no adverse impacts, and we're doing a lot here to enhance the ecological integrity of the buffer zone and the coastal bank. On page 8 of the plan, we go into the details as far as management of invasive species, our timing for doing selective basal bark injection herbicide treatments, allowing those to translocate to the root systems, removing invasive species selectively. This is difficult as far as site access goes. This is a lot of hand removal. So the utmost care will be taken to protect any non-target species, so protect existing native species on the bank. We've included a detailed 3-year management timeline along with that. I'd like to turn to page 10 of the land management plan, which really focuses on tree removal and restoration. So we're proposing to remove 7 trees for the construction of the new dwelling, and those are shown both on Mike's plan and on my plan here with the small red X's. And in addition to that, we're also proposing to remove those trees that I just pointed out because of the decline of their health and the fact that most of them are, if not already dead, very close to being dead. But we're replanting these trees at a greater than 2-to-1 ratio throughout the property to mitigate for the loss. So you can see on the coastal bank, we're proposing to remove 3 trees, a double trunk oak and 2 pitch pines from the coastal bank area. From buffer zone A, we're proposing to remove 1 8-inch cedar. And from buffer zone B, we're proposing to remove 6 trees, which include a cypress, some holly, and some Nyssa sylvatica. To mitigate for the loss of those trees, on the bank, we're proposing to plant pin oak, pitch pine, serviceberry, and eastern red cedar for a total replanting on the bank of 16 trees. Within buffer zone A, we're proposing to plant eastern red cedar, American holly, Quercus bicolor, and some pagoda dogwood for a total tree replanting of 6 in buffer zone A. And in buffer zone B, we're proposing to plant American holly, white oak, and more pagoda dogwood for a total of 6 trees. So we're proposing to remove 10 trees overall, 7 for construction of the dwelling, 3 for just management of dead and dying trees. And overall, we'll be planting a total of 28 trees. Now, Mike has pointed out in his impervious surface calculations that there's a net increase of impervious surface of 142 square feet. I believe that's in the B buffer zone. The calculation on that at 2-to-1 will require 284 square feet of mitigation, which is shown in this pink area here. But in addition to that area that's required as part of mitigation, we're also planting an additional 45 shrubs in the area that's to be regraded to the north of the house, along with the trees that we're providing for mitigation. So those trees will provide stability to that regraded area. I mean, the trees and the shrubs will provide stability to that regraded area. They'll also provide screening between the 2 properties. In total, we're proposing to plant, as part of this restoration project, 319 shrubs, 28 trees, and numerous plugs of deep-rooted native grasses and forbs throughout the bank area and throughout the area in the back here. So I'm happy to answer any questions about vegetation and mitigation planting and bank stability, et cetera.
Thanks.
Jen?
Just,
I need you to redo the
Mike,
calendar.
it's gonna make a difference. It may make a difference a little bit in the amount of mitigation.
Right.
But just, if you just go over it,
Sure.
Yeah, just double check where that
I
property
understand
line
what you're
is.
saying. Do you want to talk, speak to that at all?
you don't have to. I mean, this is a question that
Sure.
we had,
That
I mean, I know we had in the field, and
That little bit that creeped over the line, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, it's just, you know,
Sure.
it may make a difference, it may not, I mean, the restoration is good, so I just need the right calculation.
Yeah, and we have to continue it because of the
Yeah,
DEP
the
found them.
DEP number, what are your cut and fill counts on this?
The,
Let me rephrase that, what's your fill?
I did a calculation on the fill, and the volume of fill needed to construct the driveway and the parking area is approximately 1,500 cubic yards. And it's basically
Already answered that, I apologize.
to create the grading up to the house and the turnaround area for the parking area.
Okay, and I see on your plan, Mike, you have that contour line 6 going in your ponded area, your driveway pond area. So you're gonna be grading on that property as well, and I think you and I went over this in the office, but
Yeah, but
refresh my memory.
Well, we're regrading this area where the existing garage is to slope it down. And what I've shown on here is sort of in anticipation of what we're going to do here, which I haven't designed yet and is outside jurisdiction. This whole pond area is gonna be reworked, and that, we're gonna put in pervious material, crushed stone, and gravel, and raise this grade, and then redesign the driveway system. One of the problems with this drainage issue is that the elevation of the low point in that cul-de-sac, if you will, is not very high above the pond level. It's almost in the groundwater table. In fact, through the years, with high water tables, at seasonally high water tables, the previous owners, if it rained at all, they had a puddle, and the small little catch basin that's there would be almost filled to the top, so they thought that maybe if they put a little sump pump in that catch basin, maybe they could drain the entire aquifer of Falmouth and put it back in the pond, only to have it run back under the ground and have to perpetually pump. So they turned the pump on and it would go away for like 5 minutes, and then it would be right back there, so. Getting the ground higher.
maybe they should make it a fountain.
Well, we considered making it a wetland, but then we'd have more buffers and more jurisdiction, so we decided not to do that. But the trick there is gonna have to be to raise that grade. So the grading that you're seeing here, Jen, that elevation 6 is probably gonna be the highest point. It's gonna be about 5.5 here, which is gonna allow us to raise that driveway about 3 feet, which will give us just enough room to put in some low-profile storm scepters and things like that, and hopefully keep the groundwater below the ground and not at the surface.
Okay. Teresa, I know how many trees you're taking out, how many caliper inches?
I did not do a caliber inch calculation, I can get that.
Can you get that for us
Yes.
for the next time?
Yep.
Thanks. And you're in Falmouth with me tomorrow at some point, right?
I am.
We may want to run down and Mark had found some old plans you and I may need to just go over
Okay.
as far as what existed on the property and what is no longer there. And see if we can kind of work that into
Sure.
the overall landscaping restoration.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be a big deal, it's just something we should address.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other than that, I don't have any questions. Any more questions?
Any more? Okay. Court?
You say you're bringing in, what, 1,500 cubic yards? Is that what you're saying?
Does that include for where the septic
That's a-
system is?
That's a fair amount.
Yeah, it's sort of, this ramped up area, this regraded area here is been estimated at 1,500 cubic yards.
You know, actually, it'd be very helpful to look at a cross-section that would say, follow that septic line out to the tank from the front entry. that shows, that shows, see how that, you've got a nice straight line there that's almost perfect for what I'm looking at. And, show with a cross-section that shows the existing grade and then, what it's gonna end up at, because I'm looking at an 8-foot contour and then not too far away, a finished grade of 21.5 feet.
Yep.
So, you know, that means a lot of fills going in there. And I think it would be just helpful to see that visually.
Yeah, there's, I think the highest fill is around 12 to 13 feet. The average,
Yeah, I know.
the average fill, if you will, through the whole thing, because it varies, is like 6 to 8 feet, but that's one severe spot, yeah. I can do that.
I mean, I'm just trying to, I want a visible sense of what the finished product is gonna look like. And I see these walls over here, starting in the top one is where your parking area is, and then there's a couple more, and obviously that's designed to retain a lot of stuff. And it, you know, I've got this vision in my mind of one of those fortresses and medieval fortresses in the mountains of Italy that, you know, where there are these terraces coming down support. And it just, I'm not sure that's what this really is, and if I could see it in section, it might be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mike?
The square footage you report at 52,000, is that the new dimension or the existing, or?
Where do you see that?
Yeah, as the square footage of the property. When you go from existing to
Lot coverage.
proposed, I'm not sure, and I'm going to get back to percentage increase, that's all.
The lot coverage calculation, the 52,000, is actually prior to, that's 1.19 acres, which is the current lot area.
Right.
What I failed to mention, and thank you for reminding me, the current lot line, and that's what the lot coverage is based on, goes like this, runs like this, around like that, and then it goes around here. In an effort to make these two properties two separate and distinct properties that will be buffered and they will have no linkage by driveways or anything, we proposed a new lot line. So
Yep.
it goes from here to here, and the green color goes right to the property line. We went to the planning board and we applied for what they call an 81P. It's an approval not required, where you alter lot lines. You're not really creating a subdivision, you're just altering the lot lines. In fact, not only did we alter that lot line to where this black line is,
Yeah.
we eliminated these lot lines because this house is being demolished, and there's no need to have that separate lot. So that all being said, this lot line and the removal of those lot lines was reviewed and approved by the planning board a week ago Tuesday. So when I did my calculation with the 52,000, that was based on that. So the 52,000 is going to be something much bigger than that. So the lot coverage will even be bigger.
So I guess where I'm coming from is you're showing on your existing calculations, you're going from percent coverage of 8.3% to 9.7, but that's not correct.
No, those numbers will,
We'll drop a little.
yeah, it'll be even less lot coverage because the lot area will become bigger. We're going to make the lot bigger.
Well, that's a good thing, as far as, you know, that I'm looking at. Because, to be quite truthful, if you look at the size of the structure over the existing structure, it's you know, bigger package, bigger structure with more coverage area with, and we're gonna hear more about caliber inches of trees. I think you get something north of 90 going out, so, you know,
Yeah,
gonna
get-
hear,
I
we're gonna
get
hear about that.
125
So
and it
that-
would be-
So that's where it goes.
But 56 coming in with the new trees,
Right,
more or less.
more or less. As long as you got that 48-inch beech and a gorgeous 48-inch oak, and you're not touching those, my heartburn feels way down.
We clearly knew that would be an issue. The beautiful trees, who would want to
This-
impact them? Right.
I like trees before I got on the commission, and so now I have a reason to like them, so yes. That's it. Thank you.
Nice presentation. I think the team did well. I said this a couple times before. It would be a real special piece of property to make me want to buy on the water. Good Lord, this is a beautiful spot. I'm absolutely pleased to see, even though the structure is larger, they're eliminating other structures on site. They're creating a septic system far superior to what has been in use for an extremely long time. I really don't have, the one thing on the beach that's on the southern part, that 48-inch, the limit of work that goes around that is it kind of loops around it. And I was just wondering why. It just doesn't seem like I'm trying to recall the roadway that I came up on the side here. There's the blocks and the grass. I mean, to the east of the tree, maybe straightening that out, the driveway edge is there, if you can gain a little bit there, I'd feel a little bit better about that tree itself.
Maybe protecting it with a
Yeah, I'm sure a visual
15-foot
barrier
15-foot
type of orange fence or
orange
whatever.
fencing.
I don't know, you want to ask that, or can I?
No, you asked.
Okay.
You can ask it.
The proposed driveway, is there any, where's the drainage for that? Are you gonna have any containment, or is it gonna go down the drive?
The concept is, the way this is graded is it's gonna go down, and then it's gonna run over the landscape. This whole area is gonna just sheet flow down into this, and this is the eventual low point. It's all gonna make its way there, and this is gonna be sized to accommodate all of that.
Okay. I understand this a whole lot. The way I look at a project like this is I'm walking on there and I'm seeing something very historical, the little niches in the bank and such, very unique. Wouldn't be doing it today. So to maintain these and keep them, I think is really special. Thank you for the knotweed area there. This is another, becoming more familiar with these types of land management things. These are really intriguing because it shows intent. You know, it's a large property. I was impressed on the vista. The corridor comes out not as I anticipated. It comes out at an angle that I didn't expect. I think that's, it was interesting. Outside of that, jealous. I wish I could be involved in this. I really, this is a challenge for the architect, the contractor. I don't know if you have a contractor picked or not, but that would be something that site management here, particularly if this is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 type of thing, continuity going from one part of the bank work and going into the next, it would be crucial on that. That's about all I got.
Okay, Russ?
My question's been answered.
Okay, Tommy?
No questions, just a comment that, really good team that you guys have assembled here, and it looks great. I think it's gonna be an excellent project, and as Tom always says, the site management will be huge, and, you're lining up to hit a home run here. Great.
Thank you. And you don't have any questions, right, Madam Chairman?
I actually don't have a question. Well, I do have a question. I can't find the limit of work to the north. Is that just me?
Maybe because it follows along this wall, right along the edge.
Further, okay, northeast then.
Northeast would be over here. It's in yellow on this plan. It might get lost.
That's a wall.
This line here,
That's a
It's this,
topo line.
it's this line with the
Oh,
dot.
so there it is there. Does it come over this way at all?
I stopped it right at that point, because now the topography is sloping that way.
Yeah, but my worry is all these trees that are gonna be saved.
Oh, okay. I can wrap it around those
So,
trees.
yeah, and I think a condition would be that these will be specially flagged, all those clumps, the tupelos and the maple and the 30-inch beech. I'm a little bit worried about the idea of this much, the driveway, the proposed drive and the road, sort of assuming that it's gonna be a nice, even sheet flow, as opposed to, if it's not built quite properly, you're gonna have an erosion problem there. So just think about that
Yeah, I
before you come
understand.
back.
I understand.
You see what I mean? I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds like a good idea. If everything works out well, we'll just sort of sheet out through and kind of be absorbed before it gets to the pond there.
We might want to put a cross drain here to collect this, and maybe we could even consider putting one in the way. But we can look at that.
Yeah. And what I really want to say is, I actually think this is one of the more interesting, it's a complex project, but it's one of the more interesting projects. It's nice to see an area where we're actually removing some structure. The house that you're gonna rebuild is bigger, but I think the overall effect of this project is gonna be, much better protect the resources. And I agree with, you who I saw it with, and you who mentioned it, that this is a gem of a site. It's very special.
Thank you.
So, anything, Jen, any more?
We don't have a DEP number, and Mike's gonna look at those calculations for us.
Yeah,
This is
Mike
gonna
has a
give
few
us
things.
Caliper inch inventory, we're gonna look at some drainage. Take advantage of-
Cross-section?
Yeah, Teresa actually provided the information to do.
You do that right now, I just said,
You get 125?
I got 147.
Okay, well, I mean, I was just adding as I was,
There's just a couple of, like that
You can
$20
formalize
thing.
it.
Yeah.
I will, I'll put it
Email.
in. Okay.
A cross-section for Courtney, I would never forget you, Courtney. This is your cross-section.
yeah, I'm particularly pleased with
Second.
the design and the thought that went into with the landscape design and also the contouring, the terracing out. That's, with a real effort made to protect the large trees on the property.
Thank you.
We have a chance to stop it tomorrow after, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Matt, just another quick comment. It just seems like Quonset has not had any attention paid to it forever. And this whole area in the last 4 years has really, and that, what excites me about projects like this is the rejuvenation of something very historical, as the other ones were in this property. And so, literally generations from now, someone else is gonna look back at this as we are on that house. And I just really think that this board has done a really good job at, this is not just for next year or the year after, but decades from now. What we're gonna be approving or what we're putting on the table is something that's gonna be a true benefit for that property.
And,
you.
and the whole area. The whole-
Absolutely,
That whole area.
absolutely.
Okay,
Is that 3 weeks from now? or-
2 weeks from now is
Oh, yeah,
April
that'll be
2nd.
fine. I can get everything in by next week.
We're almost into April. Just think, the day before the 2nd is the 1st. That would have been fun.
And what are you suggesting?
So what's the date?
2nd. So do we have a
move-
motion?
Motion to continue this to April 2nd.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion, a second on the table. Any further questions? Any questions from the audience or comments? Yes, sir. Sir, that's, you'll have to tell us again, but, no, come on up into the microphone. And tell us who you are again.
My name's Michael McNaught. I live at the corner of Elm and Quonset, and have watched heavy trucks going by my front door for about the last 2 years now. I was just wondering what the time span on this construction is going to be, assuming that you get all your permits and everything.
Don't we have another project next week?
Logan Huffman, the, I guess, proponent. Our time frame is, we're hoping to get this moving and kind of proceed, next door and come in with those plans and, hopefully work the project for the most part, together at once. And then as far as that goes, real world on something like this, sensitivities, kind of scope, it's, to say it would be shorter than a year's project would not be fair. So that's what we're
Sir,
probably looking at.
We just want you to know that there's another project coming in next week at Quonset.
I'll be here.
Well, okay, but I think hopefully you've been patient for the last 2 years, but you may have to be patient for the next 2. He's not patient? Oh. Yeah, I mean, it looks as if,
There are many people in the Moors who are very interested in this project.
yeah.
And I'm an officer of the Moors Association, I'm the treasurer, so I'd like to be able to pass some information on to other members of the association. I'm not antagonistic at all.
Yeah. So it looks, so you see that, I mean, it looks as if there's this project, there's the other project that they're gonna be coming in, and there's
I'm just hoping that all the truck traffic will go on the other end of Quonset.
I know, well, yeah, maybe you ought to put a little detour sign out at your end.
Can you make that a condition?
Where's the next one?
67? I think Courtney has it next week. 67,
Madam Chair?
yeah.
Realistically, a 2-year timeline on this area is not out of the scope of things, just because of other permitting and just fudge factor in the world. And I think that this is a great communication beginning, and I do appreciate abutters coming in and voicing that. It is crucial to site management, and part of site management is the traffic that goes into a place. If you knew my position in the company that I work for and how I scare people when they come onto the site, when they drive onto my site, it's something that I take deeply, the concerns of the neighbors, all the abutters. It's a reflection on what goes on at that site. So,
I can tell you that he does, because when I go visit him, when he's working, the people who work there come and say, how come you let her park there? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to continue to April 2nd. Are there any other comments? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you so much.
And Teresa, and I can't remember your name, but.
David,
Dave, Amy, Logan. And Mike will escort you all if you want to talk far enough away that we don't hear you. Thanks, Mike. Town of Falmouth Beach Department, Grand Ave, Falmouth, for permission to construct a handicapped access ramp at Falmouth Heights Beach. Jen?
Chairman, can we table this to the beach superintendent at their beach committee meeting?
Motion to table?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
If he's not available by the time we're done, I can review the project with the board. And again, we're gonna need a continuous to be on the DEP network,
Oh,
so.
Aye.
all right. So I did. I said all in favor of the tabling. Only one aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Unanimous, so moved.
Next time I'll say we.
William and Karen Monroe, 26 and Lot 179 Ferry Road has been continued to
May 7th.
May 17th.
7th.
May
7th.
7th.
Yep.
Lawrence Swift, lots 144 and 145, 174 Sea Pit Road, request for permission to raise RAZE, the existing dwelling, and construct a three-bedroom, single-family house with attached garage deck, entry porch to install a new Title V sewage disposal system, underground utilities, water service, AC units, outdoor shower, driveway, native mitigation plantings, walkway, and the associated clearing, grading, and landscaping. And it looks like it's all of us?
Except Mario.
Oh, Mike.
Mike's not, Mike's here.
Yeah, so put him,
I haven't got there yet.
oh. Okay, so the quorum is everybody who's in front of you, just to let you know.
My form sheet's right in front of me.
These are more butters that's, came in since the last.
Okay, we'll stick them in there.
Okay, and I'm Jeff Reither with BSS Design, and Jeff Nickerson's with us as well. He's the attorney for the project. Last time we were here, we discussed the major issue, I think, was tree removal in the A buffer. And I just wanted to go through some of the resource areas again. We have land under a salt pond, the Sea Pit River, Walkway Bay is to the north. We've got salt marsh and green, coastal bank, and then here's land subject to coastal storm flowage limits at elevation 11, flood zone. That's zone A11. So the buffer is, the A buffer is 100 feet from the salt marsh, and then beyond that is the B buffer to the top of coastal bank. So since the last time we were here a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago, we have made this envelope where this house could be placed without tree removal, except for one. And we gave that to the architect. He in turn placed a house, sort of salvaging the architecture you saw last time, but narrowed the house down, shrunk the deck, sent it back to me, we put it on the plan, and this is the result here. Tidied up the driveway, and redid the calculations for the mitigation. So this house moved 15 feet to the north, and it moved about 6 feet to the, I guess that would be west, away from the water. So now we're not within the flood zone. Existing house here is in pink on my plan. That's 9 feet from the coastal bank. It'll be 37 feet back. The 34-foot dimension you see is to the limit of work. That's from the this little piece out back here. So we're 11 feet off the lot line. We're about 27 feet to the road layout. And again, 37 feet to the top of the coastal bank. So we've moved the house back in north, and these 3 trees here are to be saved. The cluster here that were being removed before are being saved. Unfortunately, by moving the house that way, there is 1 tree next to the existing garage that has to be removed to do this project. Also, by moving this house to the we interrupt the existing septic, we don't have the setbacks required, so that'll be abandoned. There's a note for that to be removed, and a new septic placed more than 100 feet from the top of the coastal bank. That's for a 3-bedroom. So existing 3-bedroom house, shed, house, garage coming out. Well, that's a new one, by the way. We're taking the shed out. And Jennifer and Mark did point out that they thought that that perhaps was put there illegally anyway. It's by a former owner, but we didn't find a permit for it. Maybe because of its size, you don't need permits, but it should have come to you. But anyway, that one's coming out. House is out, and then the garage. So we're putting back a house with a garage and no shed. And mitigation is shown in 2 areas here with a path through it, where the path will be where that existing shed is. So that number is it's quite large. It's 2635 square feet, approximately 300 shrubs. I think I mentioned that here someplace. That's what I calculated. Yeah, 300 shrubs. We also, because we were over 2,000 square feet, we were required to put in at least 2 trees. And then we proposed 5 trees for the 1 tree to be removed. And those will all be closer in the A buffer. And with that, I think I want to hand it over to Jeff. I think he wanted to say something about the existing conditions on the vacant portion of this parcel.
I don't know.
He's done some.
I think maybe Jeff shouldn't. Jeff's letter's in there. I think you should just leave it with what you presented.
Okay. All right, so he presented the letter that's in the file, and we're good, hopefully. And as you know, we're doing our due diligence here to permit something on this vacant lot, although disturbed. You know, we're still required to come to you and see if we can get a permit so he feels comfortable, he being Lawrence Swift, to buy this parcel.
Yes. Well, I really appreciate you, well, I think you took our guidance very seriously and really did a good job.
Yeah, I met with Jen and we went over that, you know, that building envelope diagram and then placed this structure you see within it. Again, it got narrowed down, and the deck got narrowed. It's all the trees there.
But this is, just like the last one we heard, this certainly has the potential of redevelopment that is going to be better protecting the resources than what exists now.
If you look at it, you got the existing buffer here, right up to the existing path. And as you jump the path, you're going to have this new buffer. So
yep.
You're really going to have this nice buffer across the whole.
Any questions?
I like it.
No, no?
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
It's refreshing to have it put back out, you know, the suggestions, not having to revisit it.
Yeah, it's good. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be a nice house. It's going to be a nice wooded buffer. That's another beautiful site.
Yes, it is.
Motion to,
I just wanted to comment too, this is another, I think this is the second really nice project we've had where this is easy to say, for me, easy to say yes to. You did everything that we asked you. And it totally makes sense that your client wants to know whether or not he can put this house there before he acquires the other lot. And I like it.
motion to close and take it under advisement.
Second.
All in favor of the motion? Any final questions? Okay. All in favor of the motion on the table, which is close this hearing and take it under advisement, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Good job.
pretty straightforward.
And
It's,
we'll need a continuance anyway.
Right.
Which I'll try to get, I know we want this filled, so I'll try, we'll do the continuance until next week.
so,
Hopefully.
so let's just
Motion on
untable
table?
it. Yeah. Second? Second.
Second?
All in favor of untabling the beach committee?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Yes, I'm sure you're all familiar with Falmouth Heights Beach. Basically, the concrete walkway that goes along the top of that small seawall, part of the beach management plan was identifying and constructing handicap access at, select public beaches. Just like the two that were built at Old Sylvan.
Right, this is-
Heavily used,
Yep.
town parcel and beach committee like to do handicap access.
Yep. Very straightforward.
Yes,
So
it is.
let's,
Fortunately, Don, once again, poor guy does not have a DEP number. We'll try to get Christine to get it next week, so I would suggest,
let's continue to next week. If we don't have it, we'll continue it.
on March 26th.
Yeah.
Motion to continue to March 26th.
Second?
Second?
All in favor of the motion on the table?
Wait 1 second, do you have any questions that you want to see answered before next week?
Nope.
No?
No, it's straightforward.
26, right?
Scott did a nice job. It's very clear what's going to happen. Motion on the table to close, to continue
26th.
Town of Falmouth Beach Department, Grand Ave, to March 26th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Vote orders of conditions, 378 Acapesket Road.
Yes, Madam Chairman, this was, ASS design. They did pull the house back like the staff had requested, other than that, it's pretty much a straight raise and rebuild. I think the only concern the board had was that area on the side side wasn't really stabilized. But other than that, they are pulling that house back.
And they did this.
Yeah, there's, should be, just, we had, this is Jeff's, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We had Jeff circle and initial the plan, but he should put in a plan that removes that shows that the
Stairway.
stairway to the
Stairway,
coast
yeah.
is removed.
We made a stairway would be off the dock.
To get out of there.
Huh?
Didn't he move the house back?
Was that stairway
He
to
did.
the north?
Yes, correct.
He did move the house back, so
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
And he knows that the stairway isn't, well, the stairway's gone already.
Correct. They
And
wanted to
it's gonna be
stabilize it.
replanted, but it shouldn't be on the plan.
Plan.
We just need to see a new plan.
yeah, plan, the existing stairway north to be removed. Although it is, and it's not.
It's already
the bank's
removed.
stable. I know it is.
Yeah, we just don't want to
Just
see
area
that
of
on the
bank
plan.
We don't want.
Yeah.
We don't want it removed. I'll put.
Removed from plan.
That, okay.
Motion to accept the plan as discussed.
Second.
Any further questions? All in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. 57 Gunning Point.
Not on this board.
You're not, and you're not either, Tommy.
I was last time.
You guys may be dismissed if you would like to go.
Courtney wants to go.
Courtney wants to go. I don't think there's even a hockey game tonight.
Okay, this is for the construction of a single-family home at,
57 Gunning Point.
57 Gunning Point. You did see this before, you should know one of the differences in this particular application is they did request a variance. The board does need to go through the variance criteria and determine whether or not they feel that the hardship requirement was met and that, and if this one either provides a benefit, better protects the resources, if the project were allowed versus not. I do want to clarify one comment that was brought up at the hearing in
Bless you.
just plain incorrect. Bless you. It may not have to identify within the 98, 10, 18 resource area buffer regs, but there was a setback requirement within the coastal bank regulations that would have seriously limited the ability to construct what is proposed. So I just wanted to make that clarification.
So, Jen, let me ask you a question. You said to construct what is proposed? So you're saying a smaller structure could have been on the 98?
I don't believe so. The regulations back in 98, although they're pretty irrelevant at this point, because you are working off of your 2008 regulations.
Required a 100-foot buffer.
Required a 100-foot buffer from coastal banks within the velocity zone, except those coastal banks were measured from the actual velocity zone and not from the top of the coastal bank. But if you do measure 100 feet from where that coastal bank is in the V zone, it comes up actually further than the 50-foot buffer requirement under the current regulations. So I worked with those 98 regulations. I've worked with these regulations for a very long time, and that is how I read that regulation. So all I can say is, you need to go through the variance requirement criteria and start with hardship.
I want to make some comments before we get to the variance. The presentation that we got concentrated on the coastal bank.
Keep going, Madam Chairman.
It glances over the fact that the entire buffer to the coastal bank will be built, and that's a naturally vegetated area of 9,000 square feet. Approximately 5,000 square feet is in the A buffer zone, and it'll be entirely removed. In fact, the applicant's representative said, gave us a plan that it didn't even put an A and B buffer on the plan. There is nothing proposed as mitigation for the loss of this naturally vegetated A buffer or for the B buffer. And in introduction to FWR 10.118, I'm just going to read three sections from that introduction. Buffers reduce the adverse impact of human disturbance on wetland habitat by blocking noise and glare, reducing sedimentation and nutrient input, reducing direct human disturbance from dumped debris, cut vegetation and trampling, and providing visual separation. Generally, buffers less than 50 feet wide are ineffective in protecting wetlands or providing wetland habitat functions. Buffers larger than 50 feet are necessary to provide wildlife habitat and to protect wetlands from continuing activities such as what I just mentioned, inputs of sediments and nutrients, direct human disturbance, and to protect sensitive species from human impacts. And finally, when proposing alterations to buffer areas, the applicant must overcome the strong presumption of adverse impacts on the adjacent wetlands and their functions and values. And just to give you an example, since Mike gave us this big MESA, endangered and threatened species, if you Google coastal shrubland in Massachusetts, this is how the plant community was described, the first thing that comes up, and like six of the 8 sections come up, is habitat use of the northern harrier in a coastal marine shrubland. And from the information Mike gave us, the most significant threat in the northern harrier's decline has been the destruction of suitable habitat by reforestation of agricultural land and destruction of coastal and freshwater wetlands. In coastal areas, human disturbance may cause some harriers to abandon nests. In order to fully protect further decline in the northern harrier's population, it's crucial to protect suitable habitats from development and destruction. And the second aspect, so one is that this is a 9,000 square feet of of habitat that's protected under the Falmouth Wetlands bylaw would be lost. And most importantly, about the habitat, for those of you who read about, say, protected areas, is connectivity. And this is a corridor that extends from the coastal shrublands that are in all of these lots into a forested upland buffer, and then that buffer exists all the way across these lots. Many of these inland lots are heavily wooded. And the other comment that I want to make is there's an assertion that this lot was sort of left vacant and not used. It's clear from the trail that this lot had a use for the family that owned it. And as stated in the hearing, the elder Billings were good stewards of their land and clearly enjoyed its use as unrestricted access to the shore. Although the applicants propose as part of their variance package to remove invasives along this trail and replant some native shrubs, the invasive growth, and I think most of you went down that trail, the invasive growth is only at the very edge, and the interior of that is native vegetation. And extensive disturbance along the length of this trail, unless it's scrupulously maintained for invasive growth, is going to lead to further invasives in that area. Do you want me to keep going with an analysis?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Do you want to talk about hardship?
I'm always gonna mention a few things about hardship. I don't think they've met the three elements that must be established. It's not unique to any other piece of property out there, with the exception it doesn't have a house on it. But as far as the zones, it's no different than anyone else out there, except that they built their house before these regulations went into effect. As far as economic loss, I believe there might be a little bit, yes, that's a possibility. Conditions and characteristics of the property making it unique are not the result of the applicant's actions. I don't see that this property is unique to any other one in there. And that's kind of the way I stand right now. I don't think the hardship has been met. I think we really, really need to be very tight with any variance that we would issue. That's where I had a problem. That's where I'm having a problem. I just don't think the hardship has been met.
Okay, I don't think the hardship's been met either for the uniqueness of the property. I also, if you read the Smythe decision, with substantial economic harm, the judge has the following comments. Deprivation of a potential economic benefit is not a hardship. Moreover, the loss of a particularly advantageous use of the land is not a hardship. Depreciation in value was self-imposed. Well, this is from Smythe. The plaintiff's family purchased the lot years ago. In our particular case, they purchased it over 100 years ago, when it was buildable. Although the plaintiff, again, this is quoting from Smythe, although the plaintiff argues that the hardship was due to changing regulations, as did Mr. Wall and Billings, the commission properly rejected this contention in its findings, stating it's the responsibility of the owners to educate themselves to changing regulations. Furthermore, denial of variances and therefore construction of a house does not render the property worthless. And I know of at least one other site in this. By the way, Mr. Wall has something about he mentioned something about this is one of the only sites in the neighborhood. There are about 55 to 60 lots in the neighborhood. here, and 6 of them, 10% are not built upon. So do you know how, so you haven't had one of these yet? Okay, the way this process goes is, we vote the variance first, and we put a positive motion on the table. And if you don't agree with it, you vote against it.
So I'll put a positive motion on the floor to approve the variance.
I'll second that. And I think we've had this discussion in the past. I do recognize hardship. I don't believe, I'm feeling that this is, if this variance process exists and the threshold of the variance in this particular lot is not met, then there would be nowhere that something would receive a variance.
That's not true.
Well, I'm just telling you how I'm thinking on this, and this point, because
Do you want me to tell you a variance that we issued in like, what was it, Jen, 2004?
2005.
We had a variance in 2005. Do you want me to tell you?
Please.
This is where somebody had a pre-existing dock, and they had a right, and it was a legally existing dock, and they had a right to rebuild the dock. But here's the shoreline. Here was salt marsh.
Mhm.
And here was a little island that was salt marsh. And the dock extended like that. But the dock was in 1 foot of water. In order for this person to have a dock that met the 3 feet of water, he had to go about 20 feet further out, but it was like 130 feet from the landward portion of the salt marsh. This wasn't something he created. It was something that was better for the environment.
The takeaway thing, that particular piece, salt marsh, was unique to
Was
that.
unique.
That little second island of salt marsh was unique to those two properties, those side-by-side properties. Anywhere else, you have an expanse of salt marsh along the shore. That's not particularly unique. Neither is having a coastal bank on property considered unique.
Well, if this is a contiguous coastal bank,
That rings
Around.
right all around Gunny Point. There's nothing unique about the land point. And that's the crux of the hardship argument, is that it has to be unique.
If there's a uniqueness to the property, to my mind, it's the use of the land around it. We talk about it being 9,000 square feet, but its use, because of the way it's been developed on either side and the access to it, has, you're outside my comfort zone in terms of use of the buffer, but it's been, the destruction that's been done to that buffer happened a long time before this. That it's sitting there, and that it is hard for me to say that that little patch of vegetation that's sitting on top of it, that is being eaten away by invasives, is critical to the habitat as a whole. I have a hard time seeing it.
well,
So the uniqueness.
well, there are two things. First of all, the reason that looks so trashed is because of the holes that were dug there for the septic. And there are healthy trees in that buffer. And in fact, potentially, this could have been a enforcement for that much destruction to a buffer.
Mike, this is, this came out of their own presentation. This is from Wilkinson, and it actually shows how this site adds to the conductivity of the wildlife in this area by getting the wildlife coming along the beaches up in it. So that might be helpful to you. Or maybe not.
Well, maybe not.
Okay.
And I also,
I just.
Mike, did you read the Smythe? Did you read the Smythe decision? The judge specifically said in Paulding, which is a case that he cited, the appeals court upheld the agency's granting of a variance, stating that the unusual characteristics of the lot, specifically shape, location, and configuration, compared with other lots in the area, made the property unique. Paulding, for variance purposes, the unique characteristics of a property must relate to the land itself. Before we vote, I just want to go through, I agree that it doesn't meet the hardship requirement. But if I did think it met the hardship requirement, then you have to go through the next 5 elements.
That's fine, let's walk it right through.
Okay, A, yes, they meet A, it doesn't meet a performance standard. B, mitigation measures will contribute to the protection of the resources. The only mitigation they're proposing is doing something with the invasives along the trail. And I've already discussed that I don't think that's going to improve either the habitat there, and it'll only marginally improve wildlife habitat, and it won't increase the stability of the bank. Third is the project will not create a nuisance.
Well, every residential structure creates a nuisance. So
Yeah,
I don't see
Brian
how
says-
I don't know how you're going to, if you're going to say that a residential structure creates a nuisance, then we're dead. I mean,
Well, this is what a variance requires. You have to say it won't, Brian Wall says the project will not be harmful to the interest protected by the Falmouth Wetlands bylaw. I think destroying 9,000 square feet of naturally vegetated buffer will create a nuisance.
well, I'm back to, if we're back to the standard of nuisances, you're better off by leaving it than you are by building something, then I don't know where you go with it.
Well,
You know, I
we
don't
just
know what
heard
that,
two
I don't know what that
projects.
means, Beth.
I'll tell you, we just heard 2 projects tonight. Many of the projects we get, and even projects that meet regulations, that people, if somebody has a lot and they can build in the B zone, but still show some improvement to the resource, which sometimes they can plant in a disturbed A zone, then
Okay, the size, we're back to a lot of it has to do, if you want to go, and if it's down to down to land form, I don't know how you go, but it's certainly, if we're concerned about additional planting, that can be conditioned.
where? They didn't offer it. And they offer, also, I mean, you actually asked them if they're willing to make this a public access to the beach, and they said, no, it's a private access, it's a private beach. I mean, you asked them that, and that's what they said.
I did, and I know what the answer to that.
Now, but
Let's
you
keep
saw
it.
wait, you saw neighbors who say, well, actually, we have rights to walk on that beach, there's a lot there. And they specifically asked that the back lot line be put on any plan.
That's fine.
You heard them say that.
I did.
Well, the argument was, no, we're not allowing the public access to this. In fact, the public has access down at Langley Road. Well, in fact, until that contested lot was bought by Spabs, the access over Langley Road was not a public access. It was a private access to the people in this neighborhood. So, okay, and
We're on D.
D. Well, I just said you could argue the hardship was created by the applicant because the land was purchased in 1911, has been in private use. You can see the trail to the beach since then, and the applicants could have built a structure here prior to 1979, but chose to keep it an uninhabited lot. And the last is protection of...
You're making the argument that the action of not developing it,
The hardship is,
they created the hardship by not
Yeah.
using the lot to
Not
a
what hardship
higher
means.
use?
it's not what hardship means. Hardship means unique characteristics of the lot. This might
So
be
they
even
didn't
said,
create-
Regulations don't require, the regulations don't impose the hardship.
Okay, and the last is protection of resources.
It doesn't better protect the resource, and it doesn't have a public benefit.
Well,
Okay, it doesn't have a public
public
benefit.
benefit. How is, okay, so better protect the resource. Buffer zones protect your resource areas. How is removing the entire buffer zone of this project gonna better protect that coastal bank than if the project wasn't allowed? Because that's what that says.
And all the values of both
All your values that.
the
your
buffer and the coastal
interest-
bank vegetation provide. And not only wildlife habitat, it's also removal of carbon and nitrogen from the system.
On this one, you're still back, if you use that, standard of care, that anything we do, then I don't know how you can approve anything. I just don't.
This is why we require, people can expand houses. We have lots of projects like that.
We do.
This is why we require buffer mitigation. You can't expand in the A zone if you can't provide, X square feet of buffer mitigation in the A zone.
This is, you've seen some difficult projects. You have denied some difficult projects. The ones you've denied in the past couple of years have offered more than this one does. This doesn't offer anything. Every piece of vegetation in this buffer zone is going to be gone. There will not be a buffer zone. There will not be a resource area buffer. And your resource area buffer is a protected resource under your bylaw. I know you guys sometimes struggle with it, but that's the way it is.
and that's why they're asking for a variance.
And
That's why they're
variances
asking for
are given in
variance.
rare and unusual circumstances. How is this rare and how is this unusual? It's not.
Well, and
It's
even
the
that,
construction of a single-family home.
can I
I
call
know
for,
you guys struggle with it.
can I call for the vote? Mike, can I call for the vote?
I have no more to contribute, so
Tom?
Yes, please.
Okay, there's a motion, we put a motion on the table, motion and a second on the table to approve the variance request. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Opposed.
Opposed.
Motion doesn't carry.
Motion doesn't carry, project is denied.
Without prejudice.
Always.
Always without prejudice. Would anyone like to offer a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Bonnie, Mike.